Part 3, The Coming of Redford. Now, Klein was gone, Stelmach was gone. The PC government was on the verge of collapse, and it looked like the Wild Rose under Danielle was going to win. This is roughly around the time when I was approached also, and to be a candidate. Long story, I refused in the long run. So, but I'll be glad to tell the story over beers one day. Before we go any further about biases or anything, yes, I am a member of Wild Rose. No, I'm not active with them anymore. However, the reasons why I support them is because I like their fiscal policies a lot. There's other issues which has to be done from inside, and I would be glad to explain all that. So for all of you basically going like, oh my god, those guys are racist, or oh my god, those guys are farm yokels, or oh my god, these guys are insane. That's rhetoric. There really is a good reason to vote Wild Rose, but there is a lot of changes that has to go from the inside also, admittedly, especially when it comes to, well, a lot of the members of the Wild Rose come from really conservative backgrounds. In other words, if you're gay, or if you're into certain types of marriage, or, the hot buttons, you want to divorce, hot buttons like that. And they're God and country, and for people who know me, I'm an atheist. So, all that stuff, there is that problems in the background, but, literally, the fiscal policy is still what sells me, and Wild Rose policies officially is separate and does not and believes in equality. The reality could use some work. Now, let's get back. And again, if you want to talk and argue about it with me over beer, promise to be reasonable. I promise to be on my side. And loser has to buy the nachos. Okay. Redford has just come in. Redford, it was going to be a hell of an election. Wild Rose actually was expected to be the new government. But then came, again, the social issues, where you had one idiot in Wild Rose say basically, vote for me because I'm white. And he did this in an ethnic writing. Kind of came across like he was from the Ku Klux Klan. And then there's the other guy who basically said, hey, if you're gay or a faggot, you're going to burn in a lake of hell of fire. So, didn't exactly go very well. As for Wild Rose, I was fighting around that time, trying to get them to do something to punish these two idiots, because we're going to lose the election as a result. But Danielle is a true libertarian. A libertarian believes in rights first and foremost, under any circumstance. So she believed very firmly in the rights of those two idiots to speak their mind about whatever they believed, despite what's going to happen to the election. We all told her this is going to kill the election. But her firm beliefs in libertarianism, while I applaud that she was willing to stick to her guns, politics is one of those things you have to negotiate and you have to compromise. There's no way around it. Now, thankfully for such stupid eruptions like that, and also those eruptions united the left. The left knew that the Liberal Party and the NDP really didn't have a chance. So you saw something new for the very first time, because the left, the liberal-minded, the artists, the artists of Calgary, Edmonton, the people who are socially leaning left, and so on, they strategized and they voted for PC. They basically said, Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Redford won. Massive, 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 massive triumph. I mean, she literally pulled victory from the ashes of defeat. It was a great job. Now, the problem with Redford, okay, Redford is probably one of the most talented people to have ever come out of Alberta politics. Human rights leader, worked with the UN, teacher, a lawyer, someone who really, really understands the legalities. Problem is that she's also someone who, because of her position, because of her previous life, and because she was part of the Conservative Party, there is a culture. Now, by this time, 41 years later, there is such an ingrained culture in the PCs, that they believe that if they can get away with it and just do what they do, they'll just do it. I mean, now, like, for example, to win the election, everyone knows politicians make promises, and a lot of them get broken. Redford came in on Stelmach had to do a lot of cuts to the budget because of the collapse of the economy and the oil fields and so on. And one of the things that he did just before leaving was cutting over $190 million out of the education budget. So when Redford came in, she reinstated about 50, and so you're still down about 140 mil. She had promised actually to reinstate all of it, but in the end, she only installed 50. So now all the educational areas are down 140 mil. That's one of the reasons why all those universities, like MRU and so on, started laying off people right and left, because a lot of programs were canceled. I mean, for example, MRU, their jazz and music department is dead. It died this week because there's no money to pay for it. And same thing, SAIT did a lot of cuts. There isn't a single school that didn't. And in the meantime, of whatever extra money that was around had to be reallocated because she made a promise to build 50 schools. And with what money? Well, there wasn't. So she reallocated a whole bunch, so the universities got screwed again. Of course, you're talking like a whole lot of kids, but okay. So you have those issues where basically she's more or less the queen. She believes that as you're walking around, as you're doing your things, and you're unanswerable to anyone because there's no one who can come close to really beat you. I mean, Daniel Smith with the Wild Rose is putting your feet to the fire, but it's more like a big lighter. They only had like 19 seats, compared to the 60, 70 seats of the PCs. So it's not really much of a threat. But what happened was that during the leadership election, she was very unusual. Like, everyone had there was a whole bunch of people who kind of ran to see, I'm going to be the leader, and hence the new premier. Fine. Everyone kind of allied up and so on. Redford got in partially out of basically kind of promoting herself as a new fresh breath of fresh air. She was the one who had very little connections, did very little alliances. In fact, did virtually no alliances. When she got in, people were praising her because she had absolutely no one that she was indebted to. She ran her government, and she ran her government just like that, where basically, I'm the queen, screw all the allies, because I didn't have any allies to begin with, and I'm going to make dictation and so on. Now, this isn't so much a sexist thing, at least not really per se. It's more of a matter, basically, is that you left the other guys out of the sandbox, and these are very powerful guys. So, with the voting now, and also, I mean, there's like the rumors and the stories saying that she's a bully, that she doesn't listen to anyone, and please note that is a common thing that also happened with another female politician who was our prime minister, Kim Campbell. When the election came about, where the progressive conservatives were wiped out by her, it's because she didn't listen to anyone. And there's political niceties and there's reality. So the conservatives back then, from the Mulroney years of like 300 seats, went to 2. In the Redford time, basically, as the way, since she wasn't listening to her cabinet ministers, she wasn't listening to her advisors, or a very small group of advisors, she was going around basically just like saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. Problem? You're now coming across basically as a primate bitch who has absolutely no allies whatsoever with her. So, the guys in the background were sharpening their knives slowly. They're waiting for their chance. When this whole travel thing erupted. Now, $45,000, a lot of you guys are arguing basically that it's a drop in the bucket in the budget. But try and see it from average Joe Blow voter. $45,000. The average, if someone is living on minimum wage, their salary is around $13,000 to $15,000. If someone is living better than minimum wage, say about $14 an hour, so you're still earning around $24,000, $25,000. $45,000 is a pretty decent wage, because now you're living roughly around $25 to $30 an hour. Now, $45,000 is a person's entire year's wages. She could have chosen easily to have gone on a commercial flight or waited for Harper or something like that. That would have cut the cost down. Even if she went first class on a commercial flight as opposed to a special flight, it would have cost her $2,500, $3,000. Probably no one would have cared. I'm sure it's a lot of money, but it's a special event. $45,000, you pretty much pissed off every single blue collar worker out there. Wild Rose loved it, as every single travel expense came out, and there were a few more after that, like Redford taking planes, not waiting even a lousy 20 minutes. The share flight with another person that would have saved us thousands of dollars here, thousands of dollars there. You're talking like a couple $100,000, maybe even $1 million over a while. As every little thing came out, especially her bringing her daughter. How many world leaders bring their daughter? Probably quite a few. How many bring their daughter's best friend? Probably 0. And then when all this came out, everyone kind of told her, look, you better pay this up because you're pissing off people. She said, I will eventually I'll get to paying it. And then ignored everyone. And then when the caucus in the background said, you better pay up, because news is getting around now, and it was covered by all the news channels. Her popularity numbers kept dropping like that, and as it dropped, what are you going to do? So as it's dropping, the issue isn't so much that she paid $45,000. It's the issue is that she acted as if she was, entitled to that. She was entitled to go Mercedes-Benz, everything, all the time. In a time where basically you're trying to tell, the unions, you got to take a pay cut. And when they were fighting, when they were complaining, she imposed a pay cut on the unions, on the healthcare people, on the teachers, on that. Now, that is good fiscal planning to a point, but it's not good political planning. The unions and all that are a huge block of voters. And now they were seriously pissed at her. They saw their paychecks go down by a couple of grand. And for the average worker, a couple of grand a year is a pretty big hit. And then she goes off and spends $45,000 on herself. You tell me on how happy you would be. So her numbers kept dropping and dropping, and since she kind of literally acted like a queen or king, whichever you want to put it as, she had created no allies whatsoever who would back her. So as her personal rate went down all the way down to like 20%, even 18% in some numbers, she was dragging the party with it. And the party, this is only an election is 2 years away. In these 2 years, usually in a 4-year government, you spend the first year trying to do your promises. You do the second year implementing your promises. You do the third year preparing and fundraising for the fourth year. Because the fourth year, you're pretty much not doing shit all. That fourth year, you're campaigning for the next round. So your real timeline of getting anything done is 2 to 2.5 years. And because she was so unpopular, the fundraising mechanism suddenly dried up. There were so many, those leadership elections are really bloody expensive, like $100 million or so. The PC party was trying to still recoup the money they needed so they can get ready for the next election. Problem is that they still haven't, and as Redford's numbers went down and the PC numbers went down, so did the fundraising. The fundraising went to zero. In fact, there's been reports going out that they've been losing money because the cost of hiring the fundraisers was costing more than the money they were bringing in. Not a good thing for the PC party. Especially when you have, now imagine this going over 2 years. You'll have a bankrupt party unable to fight a fight in an election. That's a recipe for certain defeat. Wild Rose, in the meantime, has been doing nothing but a lot of fundraising. In fact, so much so, it was one of the reasons why I got myself on the inactive list. They were just pissing me off. There's only so many requests for $100, $200, $300 a month you can take. So, the caucus, and they were seeing how badly things were going in the individual ridings and so on like that. The ridings themselves were actually, every riding has a committee. That committee basically elects who's going to be the person who's going to be the next candidate for the next election. They have their own people, and they have their own power. One group already had just told Redford outright and publicly, quit. The stories going around is that there was a hell of a lot more. Now, and also the 2 MPs that left. The MLAs that left. The first one, he was someone who lost power because when he got kicked out, when Stelmack got defeated, and Redford didn't keep him on. So a lot of people thought could be bitter grapes, his chance to try to get through. But that second woman, the one who quit, that was pretty much like a precise sniper shot into the head. That woman has has been known to be a woman of intense integrity, a very effective MLA. More importantly, she actually took an actual pay cut by leaving the PC government and to become an independent and losing all that authority with her, because she was an actual cabinet minister. Cabinet ministers get $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 on top of their normal pay. So right now the average MP is getting around something like 100 something. So $40,000 is still a huge chunk of change. That made everyone nervous when she left, and it emboldened a lot more MPs who never liked Redford to begin with, or her style. And before they were going to leave, Redford saw the writing on the wall, quit, and here we are. Now looking for a new leader in the next election in about 6 months. This is end of part 3.